Memorial Day weekend 2005 was supposed to be the perfect end to their senior year at Colorado State University. Five best friends, Michael Chen, Sarah Rodriguez, David Thompson, Ashley Williams, and Jake Morrison, had planned a camping trip to the remote wilderness area near Rocky Mountain National Park to celebrate their upcoming graduation and the bright futures that awaited them. They were young, brilliant, and inseparable, having formed an unbreakable bond during their 4 years of college together. What none of them could have predicted was that this trip would become one of the most mysterious disappearances in Colorado history, a case that would baffle investigators for over a decade until one impossible message arrived in 2019 that would change everything we thought we knew about what happened to these five promising young people. The group had been planning this trip for months, meticulously researching the perfect location that would offer both adventure and solitude for their final celebration together, before they scattered across the country to pursue their individual careers. Michael, a computer science major with a passion for technology and problem-solving, had been accepted to graduate school at MIT. Sarah, who had studied environmental science, was heading to California to work for a conservation organization. David, an engineering student, had landed a prestigious job with an aerospace company in Texas. Ashley, who had majored in journalism, was moving to New York to begin her career at a national magazine. Jake, a geology major with an adventurous spirit, planned to work for an oil exploration company that would take him to remote locations around the world. They had chosen a particularly isolated area of the wilderness that required a challenging hike to reach, far from the usual tourist trails and popular camping spots. The location was known for its stunning views, crystal-clear mountain lakes, and pristine wilderness that had remained largely untouched by human development. It was exactly the kind of place where five young people could disconnect from the pressures of academic life and enjoy a few days of freedom before entering the adult world of careers and responsibilities. Michael Chen was the unofficial leader of the group, a brilliant young man whose parents had immigrated from Taiwan when he was a child. He had excelled academically while also demonstrating remarkable leadership skills and a natural ability to bring people together. His friends often joked that Michael could solve any problem, whether it was a complex computer programming challenge or a disagreement within their social group. He was methodical, careful, and always prepared for any situation, which made him the natural choice to organize their camping expedition. Sarah Rodriguez was the environmental conscience of the group, a passionate advocate for wilderness preservation, who had spent countless hours studying the delicate ecosystems of the Rocky Mountains. She was fluent in Spanish, having grown up in a bilingual household in Denver, and often spoke about her desire to work in conservation efforts that would protect natural areas for future generations. Sarah was also an experienced hiker and camper who had explored many remote areas of Colorado with her family since childhood. David Thompson came from a military family and had inherited his father's disciplined approach to life and problem solving. He was physically strong, mentally tough, and had a practical knowledge of survival skills that complemented Sarah's wilderness expertise. David had originally planned to join the military after graduation but had been recruited by the aerospace company. Because of his exceptional engineering abilities and his potential to work on cutting-edge projects related to space exploration, Ashley Williams was the artist and storyteller of the group, a creative young woman who saw beauty and meaning in everything around her. She had documented their college experiences through photographs and written accounts that captured not just the events but the private emotions and relationships that made their friendship so special. Ashley had brought her camera and journal on the camping trip, planning to create a comprehensive record of their final adventure together. Jake Morrison was the free spirit who had grown up on a ranch in rural Colorado and possessed a deep connection to the land that came from generations of his family working the same soil. He was an expert outdoorsman who could read weather patterns, track animals, and navigate using natural landmarks in ways that seemed almost supernatural to his urban-raised friends. Jake's knowledge of geology had proven invaluable during their previous hiking expeditions, as he could identify interesting rock formations and explain the geological history of the areas they visited. The five friends left Fort Collins on Friday, May 27, 2005, driving in David's reliable SUV loaded with camping gear, food supplies, and all the equipment they would need for a 3-day wilderness adventure. They had filed a detailed trip plan with the university's outdoor recreation office, listing their planned route, camping locations, and expected return date of Monday, May 30th. This level of preparation was typical of their group, who had learned, through previous experiences, that proper planning was essential for safe wilderness travel. Their route took them through increasingly remote mountain roads until they reached the trailhead, where they planned to begin their hike. The weather forecast had been perfect: clear skies, mild temperatures, and no precipitation expected for the entire weekend. They began their hike Friday afternoon, planning to reach their intended campsite before sunset and spend the weekend exploring the area before hiking out Monday morning. The last confirmed sighting of the 5 friends was at approximately 2:30 p.m. on Friday when they signed the trail register at the beginning of their planned route. A park ranger who was conducting routine maintenance in the area later reported seeing a group matching their description hiking enthusiastically up the trail. But this sighting was never officially confirmed, and the ranger could not be certain of the exact time or location. When the friends failed to return by Tuesday evening, university officials became concerned and contacted local law enforcement. A search and rescue operation was launched immediately, with teams of experienced mountaineers, search dogs, and helicopter support beginning a systematic search of the entire area where the friends had planned to camp. The initial search focused on the most likely scenarios that the group had become lost, injured, or trapped by sudden weather changes that sometimes occur in the mountains. The search effort was massive and unprecedented for the area, involving over 200 volunteers, professional rescue teams, and advanced search technologies including thermal imaging equipment and GPS tracking systems. Searchers covered every trail, stream, cliff face, and hidden valley within a 50-mile radius of the group's planned route. They found no trace of the 5 friends, no abandoned camping equipment, no personal belongings, no footprints, and no signs of struggle or accident. The complete absence of any physical evidence was particularly puzzling to experienced search and rescue professionals who had worked hundreds of similar cases. Even in situations where hikers had fallen from cliffs or been swept away by flash floods, some trace was usually found: pieces of clothing, camping gear, or other personal items that could provide clues about what had happened. But in this case, it was as if the 5 friends had simply vanished into thin air. As the search continued for weeks without results, investigators began to consider other possibilities. Could the group have decided to disappear voluntarily? Had they been victims of foul play? Were they lost in an area that hadn't been searched thoroughly enough? Each theory was investigated systematically, but none provided satisfactory explanations for the complete disappearance of 5 responsible young adults who had taken all proper precautions for their wilderness adventure. The families of the missing students were devastated and frustrated by the lack of progress in the investigation. Michael's parents, who had sacrificed enormously to provide their son with educational opportunities, couldn't understand how such a brilliant and careful young man could simply vanish. Sarah's family organized their own search efforts, using their knowledge of the area and connections within the Latino community to expand the search beyond official channels. David's military family approached the situation with characteristic discipline and determination, creating detailed maps and search grids while maintaining constant communication with law enforcement agencies. Ashley's parents, both professional journalists, used their media connections to keep the story in the public eye and pressure authorities to continue searching. Jake's ranching family contributed their practical knowledge of the terrain and weather patterns while providing horses and local guides to assist in the search efforts. The case received significant media attention, particularly because of the unusual circumstances and the fact that all 5 missing persons were honor students. With bright futures ahead of them, television news programs featured the story regularly, and the families appeared on national talk shows pleading for information about their children. The university created a memorial scholarship fund in honor of the missing students, and their photographs became familiar to people across the country who followed the case. As months turned into years with no developments, the investigation gradually became a cold case. Police continued to follow up on reported sightings and new tips, but with no physical evidence or credible leads. There was little they could do except wait for new information to emerge. The families never gave up hope, but they were forced to begin the painful process of learning to live with uncertainty and ambiguous loss. The disappearance had a profound impact on the university, community, and on the family's approach to wilderness recreation. New safety protocols were implemented for student outdoor activities, including mandatory GPS tracking devices and more frequent check-in requirements. The families became advocates for improved search and rescue capabilities and better coordination between different agencies involved in missing persons cases. Michael's parents established a foundation that provided college scholarships to immigrant students, honoring their son's memory while helping other young people achieve their educational dreams. Sarah's family became involved in environmental education programs that taught wilderness safety while promoting conservation values. David's family supported military families dealing with missing service members, using their experience to help others navigate the complex emotions of ambiguous loss. Ashley's parents used their journalism skills to investigate other missing persons cases, often providing pro bono services to families who couldn't afford private investigators. Jake's family opened their ranch to search and rescue training exercises, allowing volunteer teams to practice their skills in realistic mountain terrain while keeping Jake's memory alive through service to others. The investigation remained officially active but practically dormant for over a decade. Occasionally, Reported sightings would generate renewed interest, but none ever proved credible. The families marked each anniversary of the disappearance with memorial services and renewed appeals for information. But as time passed, hope for resolution gradually faded into acceptance that they might never know what happened to their loved ones. Technology advanced significantly during the years following the disappearance, creating new possibilities for solving cold cases. DNA analysis became more sophisticated, digital forensics expanded capabilities for recovering deleted files, and electronic evidence and social media platforms emerged as powerful tools for disseminating information about missing persons. Cold case investigators periodically reviewed the file using new technologies, but the complete absence of physical evidence limited their options. The case took on an almost mythical quality within the community, with numerous theories and urban legends developing around the disappearance. Some people believed the friends had staged their own disappearance to escape debt or family pressures. Others suspected they had been victims of a serial killer who had disposed of the bodies in a way that prevented discovery. More exotic theories suggested everything from alien abduction to secret government experiments, but none were supported by credible evidence. In 2015, on the 10th anniversary of the disappearance, the families organized a major media campaign to generate new leads. They offered substantial rewards for information leading to the discovery of their children, updated age progression photographs, and created social media campaigns that reached millions of people. The renewed attention generated hundreds of tips and possible sightings. But once again, none led to credible information about what had happened to the 5 friends. The breakthrough that no one expected came on March 15, 2019. Exactly 14 years after the group had disappeared. Ashley Williams' mother, Janet, was checking her email when she noticed a friend request on Facebook from an account that made her heart stop. The profile showed Ashley's photograph, not an old college photo, but an image that appeared to show Ashley, as she might look now, 14 years older, but unmistakably the same person. The Facebook account had been created just days earlier, on March 12, 2019. The profile contained no personal information except for Ashley's name and the single photograph. There were no friends listed, no previous posts, and no activity except for the friend request that had been sent to Janet Williams. The account appeared to be completely new, created solely for the purpose of making contact. Janet stared at her computer screen in disbelief, her hands shaking as she tried to process what she was seeing. The photograph showed a woman who was clearly Ashley, but aged in ways that were consistent with 14 years of life experience. Her face was more mature, her hair was styled differently, and she was wearing clothes that Janet didn't recognize. But the eyes, the smile, and the distinctive birthmark on Ashley's neck were unmistakable. Janet immediately accepted the friend request and sent a message to the account, her heart racing as she typed, "Ashley, if this is really you, please respond. Your family has been searching for you for 14 years. We love you and want to know that you're safe. Please tell us what happened to you and your friends." The response came within minutes, and it contained information that only Ashley could have known. The message referenced private family jokes, childhood memories that had never been shared publicly, and specific details about Ashley's relationship with her college friends that had never been reported in the media coverage of their disappearance. "Mom, I know this is impossible to believe, and I know you have so many questions. I can't explain everything right now, but I need you to know that I'm alive and that I remember you and Dad and everything about our life together. The others are alive too. Michael, Sarah, David, and Jake are all safe. We're not where you think we are, and we can't come home yet, but we wanted you to know that we're okay." The message continued with details about the family that proved the account was genuinely controlled by someone with intimate knowledge of Ashley's life. She mentioned Janet's fear of spiders, her father's habit of reading 3 newspapers every morning, and the specific way her mother arranged flowers in the garden that Ashley had always found beautiful and comforting. "I know Dad still reads the Denver Post, the New York Times, and the Wall Street Journal every morning with his coffee. And I know you still plant marigolds around the mailbox every spring because you think they bring good luck. I remember the way you used to sing while you worked in the garden and how safe that made me feel when I was little." Janet immediately contacted the other families to tell them about the message, and within hours they had gathered at the Williams family home to examine the Facebook account together. The emotional impact of seeing Ashley's aged photograph and reading her words was overwhelming for all of them, but they were also skeptical about whether this could really be their missing daughter and friend. The families contacted the FBI agents, who had worked on the original case, and a digital forensics team was brought in to analyze the Facebook account and trace its origins. The technical analysis revealed some unusual characteristics that added to the mystery rather than resolving it. The account had been created using computer infrastructure that couldn't be traced to any known internet service provider, and the digital fingerprints suggested the use of technology that was more advanced than anything commercially available. Over the following days, Ashley continued to communicate with her family through the Facebook account, providing more details about her life and gradually revealing information about what had happened to her and her friends. Her explanations challenged conventional understanding of reality and suggested that their disappearance had involved circumstances that were far beyond anything that families or investigators had considered. "We didn't disappear in the way you think," Ashley wrote. "We didn't get lost in the mountains or fall off a cliff or get kidnapped by criminals. We encountered something that I still don't fully understand, something that exists alongside our world but separate from it. We were given a choice, and we made a decision that took us away from everything we knew." Ashley explained that while hiking in the remote wilderness area, the group had encountered beings who were not from Earth, but who had been observing human development for centuries. These beings had identified the 5 friends as individuals with specific qualities and potential that made them suitable for a unique opportunity to learn about the universe from a perspective that was impossible to achieve on Earth. "I know how this sounds, Mom, and I know you'll think I've lost my mind or that someone is playing a cruel trick on you, but I need you to understand that we weren't taken against our will. We were offered a chance to participate in something that was bigger than anything we had ever imagined, and we chose to accept that opportunity." The message described how the friends had been taken to what Ashley could only describe as a place that existed between dimensions, where they had been educated about the nature of reality, consciousness, and the interconnectedness of all life. In the universe, they had learned about other worlds, other forms of life, and humanity's place in a vast cosmic community that most people on Earth couldn't even imagine. "We've been studying and learning and growing in ways that wouldn't have been possible if we had stayed on Earth. We've seen things that have no names in any human language. And we've come to understand that everything we thought we knew about life and death and consciousness was just the tiniest fraction of what actually exists." Ashley's communications revealed that she and her friends had aged normally during their absence, but had experienced time differently due to the nature of the place where they had been living. 14 years had passed on Earth, but their subjective experience had been much longer, allowing them to accumulate knowledge and wisdom that would normally take many lifetimes to achieve. The families struggled to process these revelations, torn between relief that their children were apparently alive and well, and confusion about explanations that seemed to defy everything they understood about reality. The FBI investigation continued, focusing on the technical aspects of the communications and searching for any evidence that might support or refute Ashley's extraordinary claims. Additional messages from Ashley provided specific information about events that had occurred on Earth during the 14 years since the friends had disappeared, including details about family members' lives that she shouldn't have been able to know. If she had truly been in another dimension, this information was verified as accurate, adding credibility to her account while deepening the mystery of how she had obtained such knowledge. "I've been watching you and Dad from a distance, in ways you wouldn't understand," Ashley wrote. "I saw Dad's promotion to editor-in-chief at the newspaper, and I saw your struggle with breast cancer 3 years ago. I was so proud of how brave you were during your treatment, and I wanted so badly to be there to hold your hand through the chemotherapy sessions." The reference to Janet's cancer battle was particularly significant because it had been kept private within the family and had never been reported in any media coverage. Only immediate family members and close friends had known about Janet's diagnosis and treatment, making it impossible for someone without genuine connection to Ashley to have obtained this information. Over the following months, Ashley's communications became more frequent and detailed, providing insights into the education she and her friends had received and the purpose behind their selection for this extraordinary opportunity. According to Ashley, they were being prepared to serve as ambassadors between Earth and the larger cosmic community when humanity was ready for that level of contact. "We're learning how to bridge the gap between different forms of consciousness and different ways of understanding reality," Ashley explained. "Earth is approaching a time when it will need guides who can help our species understand its place in something much larger than our small planet. We're being trained to serve as those guides." The other families began receiving similar communications from Michael, Sarah, David, and Jake through various social media platforms and digital channels. Each friend provided personal information that proved their identity. While sharing consistent accounts of their experiences in this other realm, the coordination of their communications and the consistency of their stories provided additional evidence that something extraordinary had genuinely occurred. Michael's messages to his parents were filled with technical details about advanced technologies and scientific concepts that demonstrated his continued intellectual development. Sarah communicated about environmental conservation from a cosmic perspective that expanded her understanding of Earth's role in a larger ecological system. David wrote about engineering principles that applied to interdimensional travel and construction. Jake shared geological insights about planetary formation processes he had observed firsthand. The families found themselves thrust into a situation that challenged everything they thought they knew about life, death, consciousness, and the nature of reality itself. They had spent 14 years grieving for children they believed were dead, only to discover that those children were alive, healthy, and engaged in experiences that transcended normal human understanding. The story of the five friends and their interdimensional communications became the subject of intense media attention and scientific inquiry. Researchers from universities around the world sought access to the digital evidence and requested opportunities to study the ongoing communications. Government agencies launched classified investigations into the technology being used and the implications for national security. The families were approached by book publishers, documentary filmmakers, and television producers who wanted to tell their story. While they were initially reluctant to publicize their experience, they eventually decided to share their story in hopes of helping other families who might be dealing with similar unexplained disappearances and to contribute to humanity's understanding of its place in the universe. The communications from the five friends continued throughout 2019 and beyond, providing ongoing insights into their experiences while gradually preparing their families and the world for eventual reunification. According to their messages, they would eventually return to Earth when their education was complete and when humanity was ready to accept the larger reality they had come to understand. "We're coming home, eventually," Mom Ashley wrote in one of her most recent messages, "but when we do, we'll be different from the people who left in 2005. We'll be bridges between the world, and the larger universe that exists beyond it. Our job will be to help humanity take its next step in evolution, while preserving all the things that make Earth's civilization special and valuable." The families have formed a support group for other families dealing with unexplained disappearances, sharing their experience and offering hope that missing loved ones might be safe even when their whereabouts cannot be determined through conventional means. They have become advocates for expanded research into consciousness, interdimensional phenomena, and the possibility that some missing persons cases might involve circumstances beyond current human understanding. Today, the five families continue to receive regular communications from their children, building new relationships that transcend the physical separation while maintaining hope for eventual reunion. The experience has transformed their understanding of life and death, loss and love, and the infinite possibilities that exist beyond the boundaries of conventional reality. Do you believe that some missing persons cases might involve circumstances that go beyond our current understanding of physics and reality? Can you imagine receiving a message from a loved one who disappeared years ago, claiming to have been living in another dimension? The story of these five friends challenges us to consider that the universe might be far more complex and interconnected than we realize. What would you do if someone you thought was lost forever suddenly contacted you through social media, claiming to have been living in a parallel realm for over a decade? Would you believe such an incredible explanation, or would you assume it was an elaborate hoax? Their story reminds us that love can transcend any distance, even the space between dimensions. If this story has opened your mind to new possibilities about the nature of reality and the potential for consciousness to exist beyond our physical world, share it with others who might find hope in the knowledge that death and disappearance might not be the final chapters we believe them to be. Let the experience of these families inspire you to remain open to mysteries that seem impossible, and to never give up hope that love can overcome any obstacle, even those that appear to violate the laws of physics themselves.